the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of.
We're getting closer to his return, and the closer we get to him, the faster things are going to happen. The faster the healings, the faster the deliverance, the faster.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Oh, yes, boys and girls, warm welcome to Crypto 7, your bull market channel where we wear 2 pairs of sunglasses when we're feeling bullish. And today, we're going to look at both sides of the argument. We're going to look at the bull case and we're going to look at the bear case. That's why we're not wearing a baseball cap and extra sunglasses today. But look, everyone, I'm sort of still wearing 2 pairs of sunglasses. Don't panic, everyone. And in this stream, I'm going to tell you why going to the weirdest title ever in YouTube. A short, cuddly bear market now is perfect for Richard Hart, Hex, and Pulsechain. And I'm going to explain why a little fluffy bear market now, the type that you'd leave with your toddlers overnight, that type of bear now would be perfect for your investments in Hex and Pulsechain. Because you're still invested in Hex, aren't you, on both chains? You're still in PLSX. You're still in Incentive Token, Ptgc, UFO, whatever you, I was going to say poison, but you know, I think we will make it in the end, as Crypto Mike is saying in the chat. So, yeah, so the observant will notice we're not sort of really wearing 2 pairs of sunglasses today, because today we want to look at what it would mean to be in a bear market. And the good news is, spoiler alert, it's not nearly as bad as you think. But this cycle continues to defy, because I've been at this point in 2 previous bear markets, and within 3 weeks, everybody agreed, unless you thought the earth was flat, everybody agreed, unless you saw Elvis Presley was alive and well working in a KFC somewhere, everyone agreed we were in a bear market. This time we're 7 weeks past the all-time high, which was in early October of 126k Bitcoin. And you can survey 1,000 people and 500 people say we're in a bull market and 500 people say we're in a bear market. You can survey 1 million people and you get the same thing. It's bifurcated down the middle. Yes, it is, boys and girls. Yes, it is. Let's shout some people out. It's very quiet today. And that is the way it is in YouTube land and in crypto generally. Crypto Mike, thanks very much for lighting up the chat. Yeah, Crypto Mike's a member. And we do have some breaking news. Crypto 7 membership is now up to 50 already. We set a target of 50 by Christmas. We did it easily with a month to spare. And I suppose the next target is 100. And we've doubled our membership in a few weeks. And how did we do this? Just by giving people what they want, which is positive content every single day, guaranteed. All the membership channels say they do it every day or say they do it once a week, and they don't do anything. They just take your money and don't deliver. But we've been delivering, and that's why people join and they don't leave. They've been upgrading, voluntarily upgrading. What else have they been doing? Rejoining, joining, and upgrading. And it's been great, and it's a really positive atmosphere. We did it, obviously, for members yesterday. Today is public. It was impromptu, because I thought people would find this useful. Because this cycle continues to defy. You know, I mean, Ivan is saying, right, now we're going to get a great relief bounce up to 100K, 105K. I was listening to this morning, and we're going to play a tiny clip. He's saying, oh, we're going to get a bounce, and that's what the whales will exit on, and then we will go into a bear market proper. And but where's the relief rally, Ivan? I can't see it. Is it in the room with us now, everyone? I can't see it. We're at 86K, just about. Where's this big bounce up to 105K, Ivan? So even the bears are getting everything wrong in this cycle, which I think is telling, like I say, in the 2 prior bear markets I've been in. As we went in, within 3 weeks, everyone agreed. Unless you were a Titan X Maxi, everyone agreed. A Zen Maxi, everyone agreed, guys, that we were in a bear market. And this time, nobody's sure, and the honest people aren't sure. So we need to start looking at it. Yes, we do. Who else we got in the house today? We got Check My Pulse. Check My Pulse, you weren't first today. Tam's in the house. Fantastic. We got the Positivity Princess. I used to call her the Positivity Police, but I think we can call her the Positivity Princess today. Fantastic to see. We got Cryptomatic, throws in the 7s. That's awesome. We got Darren, another member, Darren, and Hex Thailand, another member, Hex Thailand. And yeah, well, you'll all be members soon, I suppose. Antonio Miranda, good to see you. Not seen you for ages. Oh yeah, okay. I'm happy to be the bottom signal. I like it. I'm thick-skinned as well. I know. That's fine. I'm happy to be if that's the case. But like I say, when we go up to 105, as Ivan is foretelling in his tea leaves, which isn't happening either. You'll all think we're in a bull market anyway, and so yeah, I'm happy. I'm always happy to be a bottom signal, guys. You know it. Like I say, most Pulsechain streamers would rather be right and poor than wrong and rich. Not me. I'd rather be wrong and rich. And put a 7 if you'd rather be wrong and rich. And really, the only way to be wrong and rich is to keep hodling. Because if you keep hodling, yeah, nice to see you, Daniel. That's brilliant. And Blobfish King, we got Trevor Fulton. You're in the house, Blob, both members. Who else we got? Yeah, nice to see you, Daniel. And who else we got? We got Armando Corral. Yeah, awesome. Not seen you for a while either. That's brilliant. And I think that's it. Fabulous. So today we're going to look at the bull and the bear case. And what you're going to find is that the bear case, it's one of those, like those tiny little teddy bears you get when you fly first class, and they give them to the kids, little, you can have them yourself, guys, if you want, don't tell anyone. But yeah, it's like that. I think if we're going into a bear market, it's going to be like that, because as I've been saying for ages, I'm probably the first person to say it, this could be a bear market until May, when we get a new Fed chair, when Trump's got control of the money printer and the interest rate and everything. And I can't see us going past May. Hey, there's some fantastic news, which is actually very relevant to Hex and Pulsechain, because as you probably know, we have a massive amount of Texans. who are actually in Hex. And fabulous news today is that Texas bought through the ETF, through the BlackRock ETF, funnily enough. Texas bought Bitcoin today. Now, loads of states have been creating the legislation to permit them to do that, getting that through their houses. But I think that Texas is the very first state to actually buy. Now, it wasn't a huge amount. It was $100 million. Let's take a look at that now, guys. Smash the likes, everyone. Let's do this. So I am just looking for the right, because I didn't have that up. I'm sure it's here somewhere. Let's see. Yes. Here we go. So this is showing the wrong one, but it's now showing the right one. Okay, let's put this in USD. And we had 128 million of buying through the ETFs yesterday, which is great. It's a start. And we're starting to... It's very interesting because we're getting a green day and a red day, a green day and a red day, a green day and a red day. Prior to that, lots of red days. So I guess it's... while we're sort of transitioning into from a bearish sentiment around crypto from the institutions to they're not really quite sure. But so we know that we can see here that BlackRock bought $83 million worth of Bitcoin yesterday. And apparently, how much did I say? I think $10 million was Texas. Correct me if I'm wrong, Texans. We've got a lot of Texans, Hexagon Texans in the chat. So I think it was, but anyway, that's good news. And Fidelity bought 170 million, so that's good. We had a few sellers, as you can see, and it's nice. I mean, now, but what's even better than this, because is the amount of buying of Ethereum that happened yesterday. So that's also a good sign. Surprising, really, therefore, that we are going down after this nice signaling from the institutions. But there you go. Never mind. 78 million bought of Ethereum. So what did we say for Bitcoin was 120, 78. Now, keeping in mind that Bitcoin's about 6 times bigger than Ethereum, you need to times by 6 the amount if you want to get a feel for the impact on price. So because Ethereum is 6 times smaller than Bitcoin, you need to times 78 by 6, which is about 420 million, something like that. Quick math. And so nearly $500 million in real terms, in terms of the positive price pressure, in terms of how much 78 million is going to push Ethereum up. It's a lot more than was bought for Bitcoin yesterday. And that issue of the fact that Ethereum is so much smaller than Bitcoin plays even more strongly, extremely strongly, extremely with capital letters for Solana, because if we look at, here we go, we've got it here. And just let me check, you can see it. Oh, damn it, you haven't been seeing these things. You can now. Apologies for that, guys. Right, so we got Solana up now. Sincere apologies, you've not been seeing the screens. That is somewhat annoying, but live show and all that. Right, you can now see this. And this makes a point even more. So Solana had $53 million worth of purchasing yesterday versus Ethereum, which is, what did we say? So we're testing. You've got to stay awake, guys and girls. We said 70, didn't we, for Ethereum? Now, because Ethereum is about 5 times bigger than Solana, again, you times 53 million by 5 to get a real measure of the relative impact on pushing the prices up. So 5 times 53 million is $250 million, right? So in real terms, relative to Ethereum, Solana had $250 million bought yesterday. And every day since the Solana ETF has come out, it's been going up, which is why I said again to members only yesterday, I think that Solana is going to do very, very well. By which I mean over the next 12 months, I'm super confident it will do a 3x. So it's not going to get us to Monaco. It's not going to make life-changing gains, but it is going to give you a nice return. And if you wanted to structure a portfolio alongside high risk, like Pulsechain, then it's nice to have something that you can count on to give you a 3x return. Because as we're going to talk about in this stream, guys, if we are in a bear market, you know, we're not really going to be able to take much profit in terms of crypto over the next 12 months, which means we need to budget and cut our cloth according to surviving the next 12 months. And one way that you could survive the next 12 months is if you were to put $10,000 into Solana now, and Crypto 7 is right, and it conservatively does a 3x over the next 12 months. It might be slightly sooner, might be slightly less. You've got $30,000, and that's kind of like enough for most people if they're careful to live for a year. So, you know, while you wait to get to Monaco on Pulsechain, because that time scale on that's a little bit less certain, a little bit less clear, but I think it's a very, very good one, because if the institutions are buying $53 million worth of Solana yesterday, as they did, yeah, those are the facts. Those are the facts, and they are undisputed, Your Honor. And then what are they going to be doing when we go into, dare I say it, banana zone, guys? Banana zone. Don't mention banana zone. Put a pound in the sin tin for mentioning banana zone. Too soon for banana zone, isn't it, guys and girls? So does everyone get what I'm saying? That because Ethereum is so much bigger than Solana, when you see $53 million go into Solana in 24 hours, that's really the equivalent of $250 million worth of Ethereum. Right? You're starting to notice, yeah? Or the equivalent of about $1 billion. Handily, the math has kind of worked out for me. So we're pretty close here with the mental math. We're not far off. So $53 million worth of Solana purchasing is the equivalent of $1 billion. Now, if I said to you, oh, the institutions bought $1 billion worth of Bitcoin yesterday, you'd say, God, that's bullish. Crypto 7, that's fantastic. Let me get that bottle of chilled Moe out of the fridge and get the ice bucket going. This is a party time, isn't it? Well, that's exactly what you've just seen in Solana. For Solana, you know, so bullish, guys, get bullish about that. That's fantastic. Now let's check the chat. Let's check to see if we've got any super chats. Acid Sunder's in the house. That's fantastic. Academaciated. The name that every Pulsechain streamer butchers. Academaciated. Fantastic to see you. He's one of those guys who's been stuck with it thick and thin. And you do have to stick with it thick and thin. So everything's changing in this cycle, as I say. The bulls aren't sure. The bears aren't sure. The people that think we're going to have a relief rally and then go down a bit more aren't sure. That's what we're going to show now. We're going to show the bullish case. And this is Anthony Pompliano. I'm sorry I didn't have the screens up earlier, guys. Apologies for that. I'm going to sack my assistant later, yeah? So let's have this. This is on CNBC, guys. Oh, yes, it is. Smash the likes for that. We've got Bitcoin on CNBC. I think this was yesterday. I like to keep everything very fresh on Crypto 7. I never show old content on Crypto 7. And if it ever is old content, I make sure you know it's old content. Don't we, Altcoin Daily?
So where do you see the floor at this point, and where do you see the upside? Yeah, well, let's put this all in context real quick. So over the last decade, Bitcoin has drawn down 30% or more 21 different times. Of that, 7 of them have been 50% or more. That's like having a global financial crisis every year and a half for a decade. So Bitcoiners are used to this. Now, who's not used to this are the people who are coming from Wall Street. They're not used to this type of volatility. You know, global financial crisis, there is literally people still fearful of that happening again. And so I think that what we're watching is as the rotation of the holder base happens, these new people are very, very fearful. We're going into end of year. There's things around bonuses. People are trying to figure out, should I actually sell this asset that I thought I was really excited about? And I think that's putting some downward pressure on the price. Now, in terms of that drawdown, given that there's been 21, 30+% drawdowns, I do think that a 35% drawdown that we've seen from the all-time high is pretty healthy reset. And I think that there's a question in the industry. Is this going to be one of these very large drawdowns that we've seen in terms of these bear markets of 70, 80%? Or is this simply something that is more normal? And we should expect this reset to then provide a new base, and then we go back to all-time highs over the next couple of weeks or months.
And where do you stand on that question that you just posed yourself?
You know, I heard something pretty interesting. Matt Siegel over at Van Eck said, well, Bitcoin's, in terms of Bitcoin's volatility, has been cut in half over the last year or two. And so if that's the case, if we're used to 80% drawdowns, maybe now the drawdowns are about 40%, right? You would expect that if the volatility has been cut in half. Well, we just saw a 36, 37% drawdown. And so I do think that as volatility compresses, people will be disappointed to the upside because it's not going to have these blow-off tops that they expected. But also there may be some, safety in terms of these 80% drawdowns are gone as well. And so I tend to think that we probably are somewhere around the bottoming. Again, if you see the fear and greed index at, I think it was 8 for Bitcoin, 6 in equities, that tells me that you can't stay there that long. And so I think that we might just go sideways for a while here and then start to kind of grind back up over the next couple of weeks.
So very bullish. He's sort of saying, what, another 4% at the most? And by his calculations, by his back of the envelope bullish calculations, guys, that's the full fat of the bear market. Well, that's bullish. And then, of course, up we go to $250,000 or whatever he's thinking we go to. And yeah, I mean, there's certainly a rationale to it. And we're going to listen to Ivan in a second. And actually, they're not that far apart because Ivan also thinks that the bear market is going to be fluffy and cuddly, the type of thing you get on the airplanes for your kids, but not quite that fluffy. I mean, whole 4% lower, and then off to the moon. But and obviously Anthony Pompliano talks about the fear and greed and how we're in peak fear, and when we are in peak fear, everyone from Richard Hart to Warren Buffett knows that's the time to buy. Yes. Smash the like, subscribe, consider joining. It's just $3. We have now hit 50. It is the probably the best investor group in Pulsechain land already in just a few weeks of delivering on my promise to stream every day for the members. Let's listen on a bit more.
Anthony, one of the big questions has always been how much leverage there is in the Bitcoin universe and whether there gets to be a point, and I don't know what the inflection point is, where there are enough margin calls that it effectively becomes this sort of self-fulfilling prophecy on the downside. Where do you stand on that? I mean, obviously, we talked to Michael Saylor just about a week and a half ago. He obviously represents a huge part of the market, too. Also, there's a number of ETFs now that represent a big part of the market. So how do you see that piece of it?
Yeah, well, there's a lot more leverage in the system on October 8th and 9th, right before the big liquidation. And so I think that, again, part of that healthy reset is that we went from higher degrees of open interest and leverage to today something that is much more normal. And I think that, again, that fear and greed index is a great signal as to how bullish people are. And, there's always the quote of you want to buy when there's blood in the streets. I don't think I've ever seen the equity fear and greed index at 6. The Bitcoin one going to 8 is very, very rare. And so I think that you're not going to see high degrees of leverage whenever you get that fear. And so that gives me great confidence that we're probably not that far from having bottomed.
So are you buying right now? And what do you see as the upside in terms of how you look out even 12 months out? Because we've heard lots of predictions that would mean that the value would effectively have to double, triple, or more, actually, to reach some of the expectations we heard probably 12 months ago.
Yeah, I've been coming on the show for a long time, and every year I try to end up with more Bitcoin than I started the year with. This year I will have accomplished that, and also I will end Q4 with more Bitcoin than I started Q4 with. And so I think that if you've been doing this for a while, you understand that this is part of the volatility. The volatility is actually a strong signal. It's not a negative. I actually would be worried if Bitcoin's volatility essentially was zero. You need volatility for the asset to go up. Bitcoin is up 240x over the last decade. It's about a 70% compound annual growth rate. We are not going to continue to have that level of growth moving forward. But if we get something that is 20, 25, 30, 35% compound annual growth rate for the next decade, you're going to outperform equities. And I think that's why a lot of Bitcoiners are very excited about this asset as part of their portfolio.
Do you feel the same way about Ethereum or Solana? I should say, by the way, down even more than Bitcoin.
Yeah, what's been pretty interesting is I think that going into this bull market, people thought, okay, Bitcoin will be the lead in terms of movement on a sequence basis, but the alts historically have outperformed in these kind of euphoric blow-off tops. We haven't really seen that as much as I think people expected. And so instead what we've seen is that Bitcoin has remained kind of the dominant asset. A big part of that is that Wall Street embraced it first. Now, over the last couple of weeks and months, we have seen Wall Street start to take a look at ETH and Solana and some of these others. But I do think that there is still a kind of category creation, a category winner in Bitcoin as a store of value. That is probably the largest total addressable market. And so I think that Bitcoin will stand alone and it will continue to be the king of the crypto market. Doesn't mean the other things are going to go to zero. Doesn't mean that investors aren't going to go put that in their portfolio. I just think that Bitcoin is able to kind of obtain a very special place in a portfolio. And that's why you see so much capital flowing in. And that's why you see Bitcoin dominance continuing to be so high compared to the other cryptos.
Bitcoin down.
Yeah, I don't think that Ethereum has gone down more or Solana than Bitcoin in recent weeks, but the interviewer knows that he's a Bitcoin maxi. But Anthony Pompliano was being fair there. He was saying that, yeah, people are starting to buy Ethereum and Solana, and the institutions are now wanting to have a position in those as well. So he wasn't shitting on altcoins, but he is a self-professed Bitcoin maxi. But I like him. He's a good guy, and of course, everyone listens to him on Wall Street, and they seemed happy with his answers there, didn't they, guys? So let's just hook up with the chat, and then we will go over to the bearish case. So that was very bullish, wasn't it? What did he say? If the volatility is half as much as it used to be because of institutional involvement, then maybe we go down 40% instead of 80%. We're already down 36% now, and therefore, by my back of a napkin calculations, everyone, we're only going down another 4%. Take it to the bank. Don't take it to the bank, but it sounds good to me, Anthony. It sounds good to me. Does it sound good to you, uni school first? And Matsy, good to see you. Matsy's in the house now. And Amando Corral, you're all up in lights, guys. Yes. So that's the bear case. That this is just a normal correction. It actually is. If we are in a 5-year cycle, as Raul Pal says, have you ordered your 5-year cycle t-shirts, guys? I've ordered mine. And if we are in a 5-year cycle, then even more so, this would be perfectly normal because we have to correct before we can go up. In fact, we could do another 35% correction later. Say we go to 130K Bitcoin nets, correct again 35% or 40%, and then go on to 250,000. That's all possible as well. If we're in a 5.5 year cycle, plenty of time to do that. And it starts to make sense. So we still don't know. That's the answer. So we're looking at all the options, but we just heard the bullish case. And of course, Anthony Pompliano is doing a very good job of making the case to the Wall Street investors about why crypto is a great asset still. And we thank him for his service, don't we, everyone? I think he was a semi-professional American football player. When he was in college. I think the Americans call that college football. So it's kind of, I think you're a professional when you're a college football player, but not sort of, obviously in the upper echelons. But I think, and you can see he's still got the physique for it. He's got this big muscly neck, hasn't he? That's Anthony Pompliano, very insignificant figure in the space. Oh, and talking about Anthony Pompliano, this is a guy that's best friends with the guy that's come into Hex and Pulsechain recently, into the cryptoverse. God, what's his name? Going Parabolic. Jason Williams, Going Parabolic. You've probably seen him in the community. So this guy, Jason Williams, is best friends with Anthony Pompliano, and they had a Bitcoin mining business together, and they have an investment company together. That's why you subscribe to Crypto 7, guys. I know these things. I know these things because I've been in crypto for 10 years. 10 long. No, it's been good. It's been good. It's an adventure. It's going to be even more enjoyable, isn't it, Tam, when we actually make the fortune in Hex and Pulsechain that we've suffered. You know, what was I saw Andrew Tate say recently, somebody asked him, Andrew, what's the quickest and easiest way to get 6-pack? And he said, why does it have to be easy? Why does it have to be fast? Why can't it be difficult? If it was easy and fast, everyone would have a 6-pack, and then there'd be no value in having a 6-pack. And this kid was like, "You're so right, and you're so right, Andrew." And I'm thinking it's the same with Hex and Pulsechain. Why does it have to be easy? Why does it have to be fast? If it was easy and fast, it wouldn't be any value in getting rich in crypto. Smash the likes if you like that. Smash the likes and consider joining the channel where we stream guaranteed every day for $3 a week. Yes, yes, yes. Awesome, awesome. And now let's go over to the what I'm calling the fluffy, cuddly, tiny, micro little teddy bear case from somebody who you may have heard of called Ivan on Tech.
That we said that we're kind of halfway through the bear when you look at the price. The price already is down 30%, and likely the bear market will bottom out somewhere around the 200-week moving average, which is this white line, and then I extrapolated in the yellow line here, and that is around 55% from the peak. All right. And this is because when you have a market like we've had, where we didn't have a crazy run-up, the drops are then not that big either. And this is represented by the 200-week moving average, because the 200-week moving average is not that far below us. In previous bull markets, when we had more mania, more craziness, more pump, more insanity, more blow off top, then the 200-week is way lower. Then we need to go down 80% to touch the 200-week.
I've been saying this for ages on Crypto 7. It's a very difficult concept to get your heads around, that if we were going into a bear market, it won't be like a bear market that you think. When I say bear market, you think, oh, I'm going to lose all my money. When I say bear market, you think my wife's going to divorce me. No, 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 because if we don't get a blow off top, and we didn't get a blow off top, in fact, we went down in 2020-25, then there's no need for us to go back a lot. It's only the fact that prices become overbought, the fact that things become overvalued, you know? Like, is it really reasonable for Gala to go up 30x in the last 3 weeks of the bull market, for instance? These sort of parabolic gains that we saw in the last cycle in altcoins. No, it isn't, is the answer, of course. And so we're not going to see that. And this is what he's saying. So get ready for, don't fear the bear, guys. And we're going to talk in a second about why actually a fluffy, cuddly little bear, as Ivan is describing. And I mean, Anthony Pompliano's bear is more like, that would be one of those tiny little bears that goes on the end of a pencil or something. I mean, it wasn't a bear at all, was it? 4K down.
Or 85. But actually, all of these different market dynamics, they are baked into the moving averages. So I would say it's wrong to blindly look at the last cycle.
Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Also, did you notice a 200-week moving average line is moving up, which means that by the time we get there, it's actually going to be higher. So, you know, what was he saying? I think he's saying 70K. I think he's saying that we could go down to 70K, which isn't, or 68K, I think, to be precise. I'm trying to remember what he said this morning. 68K. Well, you know, that's not, we're at 86 now. So what's that? Quick math, 18K down. It's not that bad. And of course, what we're seeing is the altcoins are holding up quite well. So that doesn't mean that, 18% down for 18K down for Bitcoin means we're going to go down tons and tons in Ethereum. It doesn't mean that, particularly it's got an ETF and we've seen they were buying it yesterday. So yes. So it's all good. It's all good. Let's connect up with the chat, and we're going to tell you why a short, cuddly bear market now is perfect for Richard Hart, Hex, and Pulsechain. Yes. The reason that is the case, guys, is because I'm going to use a motorsport metaphor now. So if you have a long race, and you know things like the Daytona's a long race in the United States, like the car race, and the safety car comes out, then even if you're half a lap behind, you can catch right up with the leaders, so that by the time the safety car comes back in, you're maybe only a couple of seconds behind the leader, and you've actually got a realistic chance of winning the race. Whereas when you were half a lap down because you had to come in for tires or whatever, you were out of the game. You can't catch fast guys. Even if you're a fast guy, you can't catch them if you're half a lap behind. But if the safety car comes out and everyone bunches up, then it's game on, baby. It's game on. You know, it's you got a good chance. I think that's exactly like the situation now. If we were to go into a bear market, a fluffy small bear market, to about May, when we get the new Fed chair and Trump gets control of the rates and Trump gets control of the money printer, and we get a pro-crypto Fed chair, all these good things, then what could very likely happen in that time is that Interpol gets resolved. And as you know, Interpol's a big deal. As I say, as soon as Interpol gets resolved, all big investors in Hex and Pulsechain, including this Jason Williams guy, will increase their exposure, and they will turn to their big investor friends, like in the case of Jason, Anthony Pompliano, and say, hey, Anthony, all these issues have been resolved now, so technically Hex and Pulsechain are the most resilient legally in terms of their regulatory clarity and established position as legal DeFi and all that good stuff. Okay, then I'll put $500,000 in then in that case, because they're both obscenely wealthy, which is a good thing. Shout out to both of them. And so it could be a perfect thing. Provex might be out and actually supporting the cause in a good way by increasing the onboarding and allowing people to not have to rely on central exchanges, which is the whole point of Provex. While we're chatting, while I got your attention and chat's warming up now, more people are coming in now. You'll have noticed that Richard Hart is calling a lot of people in the community dummies and a lot of people in the community idiots at the moment. And it doesn't occur to the people who are members of Crypto 7 he's talking about us. We're sure he's not talking about us. And if you're watching now, putting in nice comments, he's definitely not talking about you either. But he's obviously talking about a lot of people in the community. And I think the Provex SAP is a trap. And I think it's the dummy trap. It's the dummy trap. It's designed to trap the impatient, itching to sell their cause in a sacrifice where they can't then sell. And that's the trap. Let's take Ivan down now. And sell. So being in a sacrifice is a way to stop you from being able to sell as we start to pump. So this is what I think the Provex SAC is. I think it's a trap. I think it's a way of getting people who are liquid because they haven't staked their hex, or they're not yield farming and things on Pulsechain. They're not doing the validating. A way to take some of that liquid stuff that they were going to sell on the first sniff of a green and put it into the sacrifice. So I see being in a sacrifice as a way to stop you from being able to sell as we start to pump. It removes the sell pressure and creates a new generation of cry fags trapped in the latest SAC. That's what I think the sacrifice, and in particular the sacrifice pool is. It's a bit like being. So what you got to think of, being in a sacrifice is very much like being in a stake. Yeah, having staked your crypto, but you don't set the end date of the stake. There is no end date, and if an end date actually comes from Richard, it might not be met, as it wasn't with Pulsechain, and it's not going to be you that sets it either. so you, well, I can get this to work. So you can't even emergency end stake your sacrifice. So if you were to stake, you set the date and you have the choice. You have the option. It's not a good idea, but you could emergency end stake your stake if you wanted to. With a SAC, you can't emergency end stake. Do you see what I'm saying? It's very, very clever of Richard. It's the perfect trap. And I think the Provex SAC, and particularly the SAC pool, it takes liquid supply owned by dummies that wanted to sell and drives it into a SAC for a project that has many key questions deliberately left unanswered. Even the dummies that Richard talks about get that not knowing when your Provex tokens might be tradable is a problem. Because if you cannot weigh the likelihood of Solana, for instance, we've talked about Solana today, doing a 2x in the time it takes for Provex to come out against the likelihood of a quick 2x on the Provex on launch, you've got a problem. If you can't measure the opportunity cost, you've got a problem. Everyone gets that. But you also can't, if you don't know when it's coming out, you also can't assess the market conditions when it launches, as you don't know when it will launch. But I do know launching it into the current peak fear environment. So we're still in peak fear. Anthony Pompliano said we went down to 8. We're still at 15. We're in peak fear until we get back to 20. We're nowhere near 20. So we're still in peak fear. So I do know, everyone knows, that launching into the current peak fear environment would crush the price of Provex the moment it launched, particularly as we know that a lot of people have come in through the sack pool looking to make a quick gain. So there's going to be lots of sell pressure. So if Provex was to launch after this popular sack pool into peak fear, then the price is going to go to nothing. So logically, if you have sacrificed for Provex, you don't want him to launch it for many months. But if you don't want him to launch for many months, then that also means that you could be making good money elsewhere. If you're sacrificing, if you intend to sacrifice, or if you have sacrificed, you need to pray he doesn't launch into these conditions, or the price will go straight to zero. Them's the rules, guys. I don't make the rules. That's why people launch altcoins towards the end of a bull market. Search your minds, gentlemen. Search your hearts, ladies. You know I'm telling the truth. So there's a huge opportunity cost there. And again, you can't quantify that. But that's not the half of it. You also don't know if the tokens might launch without the underpinning project, as Richard Hart suggested. That's a big, big issue that no one's talking about, because it's the operating crypto that sets the value or price of the crypto when it launches. If that happens, if he launches a token before Provex is live, is running, is operating, it will change the valuation of the tokens you sacrifice for completely. Completely. And when I say it will change, I should say destroy. It will destroy them. And the market's going to be very, very cynical of a token that launches without being able to assess the project or the crypto in terms of things like UI, user interface, in terms of things like volume, in terms of things like operating speed and all those things. If it hasn't launched, you can't measure it. Are people saying nice things about it or not? Are people enjoying it? Are people finding it useful? Zero information. If he launches Provex without the underpinning crypto, then everyone that sacrificed is going to lose their shirt and would have been much better off investing in something like Solana, which is almost certainly going to 3x over the next 12 months. Okay? So because you can't see how good it is, how people are reacting to the UI and how much volume there is and all these things. I've just said that. And you'd have been much better off. Or buying the cores at all-time lows. Not just Solana. I use Solana as an example because I think it's going to do really well. But buying the cores at all-time lows. So if you are still thinking of sacrificing, then just be aware that when Richard calls people dummies or idiots on X, that he is, I'm afraid, probably referring to you. Fantastic. I just wanted to do that as well because I know there's one or two streamers covering the sacrifice. I mean, he said it's not for us, guys. It's not for us. Walk past it. Like he said, don't get into the AA phase of the Hex launch immediately on launch. And that was good advice as well. I think the whole dummy and idiot thing is he's going to turn around to all the people that made Buck and his pals rich through the sack pool and say, you guys were dummies. I told you not to sell your cores at all-time lows. And we know it's the community who's getting into the Provex sack price. And we know that because I could do a stream called Provex and it'll get less views than if I did a stream saying, you know, I am going to do a camera test on my computer stream. I would get more views for a camera test than I would for Provex, which means there's nobody out there on YouTube interested in Provex and Richard Hart's latest sacrifice. So the whole thing's a red herring. Keep your powder dry. If you are impatient, whatever you do, don't invest. It's going to create a whole new generation of cryfags. You're going to have clever cryfags and stupid cryfags. The clever cryfags will say, Richard, please, God, don't launch into peak fear. Don't launch Provex into peak fear. The impatient cryfags will say, Richard, launch it now. I want to fat finger the sell button and make a quick 2x. And particularly as I can see, Solana's just done a 2x. So I'm particularly egregiously butthurt. I'm egregiously butthurt, Richard, that you haven't launched Provex. Fantastic, fantastic. Good stuff. Yep. Look forward to streaming tomorrow if you're a member. I will be streaming to the members as always tomorrow. And do consider joining. Smash the likes on exit. And yeah, so this is the thing I've been saying for a while. If it's a bear market, it could be the best thing possible for us. It's the pace. The bear market becomes the pace, the safety car, the pace car. Everyone bunches up, and you've got a chance again of making it to Monaco, because Richard might resolve his Interpol thing. Provex might be operating, and after an initial sell-off, which I'm predicting, it could go on to make some nice gains. Remember, I was talking to somebody offline about this. So Solana went down to $8 in the bear market, and it was in peak fear. It was exactly the same situation as we're in now with Hex and Pulsechain. Peak fear, yeah? Then it went to 9, then it went to 10. When it went to $10, everyone went, oh, well, that's a bit better. Because it was when it went below $10 in the bear market that everybody really lost their shit over it. Yeah, really, really panicked. Nobody was buying it below $10. Then it went to 10, then it went to 11. And then it went to 12. By the time it's gone to 12, it's gone up 40% above where it went to. So it's given a clear sign that 8 was the low. It's gone up 40%. But if you'd bought $100,000 worth of Solana at $12, if you'd waited from 8 to 12 and then bought 100,000, you'd have made 2 million in this bull market. 2 million, because it still went on another 20x, from a little bit more, in fact, about 22x from $14 to go to the 292. Quick math, guys. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, if you were observant, you'd have seen that Solana went to $8 and everyone was cry-fagging. You'd have seen it go to 9, then 10, and then there was a bit less cry-fagging, and then 11, and then 12. And most people still didn't buy, but the signs were there. 13, 14. Even if you'd got in at 14, you'd have still made 20x. Just, in fact, more. So if you waited from 8 to 14, because 20 times 14 is 280, but Solana went to 292 just before Trump got into power. So you'd have still made over a 20x if you'd waited to 14. It's exactly the same thing with Provex now, right? When Provex launches, it'll dump because everyone wants to try and make a quick buck. It's PvP, player versus player in Pulsechain. Then watch it. If it starts going up and up and up, just get in. Just get in. Like when Solana went from 8 to 9 to 10 to 11 to 12 to 13 to 14. Get in. Get in. 14. What's that? 50, 60% above the all-time low? Get in there. You're still going to make a 20x. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wait till Provex dumps like crazy after launch. I'm then going to watch it go up and up and up and up. And I'm going to go, yep, I'm in. I'm in. And then make a 20x. Fantastic. I'm bullish about the concept. I'm very, very bearish about the sacrifice. Yes? Okay. I might make this a clip for my position on Provex again. So, you know, as I say, guys, I hate to say this, but when you hear Richard say idiot and dummy, if you're still thinking about sacrificing, I'm afraid he might be talking about you. Thomas PC09 says, I see red, I buy. That's the game, buddy. That's exactly what you've got to do every time in crypto. Crypto's not going anywhere. I don't know if we're going to get a cuddly little tech bear market now, or if we are going to start going up. But I think that 2026 and the latter half of 26 is going to be great. And I'm pretty bullish on crypto. And if I had more dry powder, I would be thinking more in terms of adding to my position than in terms of worrying about selling. So if you're worried that you might need to sell, be very encouraged. Anti-Pompliano thinks maybe we go down a few more percent. And even Ivan thinks maybe we go down to 68K, which isn't that far really from where we are at the moment. Roll on 2026. Couldn't have said it better, Mercy. Thanks very much, everyone. Smash the likes on exit. Chat to you all tomorrow if you're a member. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Bye, bye, bye.